Hello, my name is Jeff Farbman from the Wallace Center at Winrock International. Welcome to the National Good Food Network webinar, Discerning Palates, Growers' Experiences Selling Their Crops Through Food Hubs. Credit goes to Will Gray for the fantastic title. As I travel across the country and talk to farmers, after I present on food hubs, I sense tremendous interest in the promise of hubs and some reasonable trepidation about entering into a business agreement with what might feel like a newfangled market to some. Today, we've invited 5 farmers with diverse operations from across the country to talk honestly about their interactions with their local food hub. I think you'll hear that food hubs are not a panacea, but do have significant positive effects on the farms that sell into them. This webinar is made possible with support from the USDA Risk Management Agency. We're working with a host of organizations on that project, including the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative at University of Arkansas School of Law, Farm Credit East Central Oklahoma, Farm Credit Council, Morse Marketing Connections, the Choctaw and Muskogee Creek Nations, and the Muskogee Food Sovereignty Institute. The Wallace Center is a business unit of Winrock International and the host of the NGFN webinar series. The Wallace Center has been a leading organization in the movement for a more sustainable and equitable food system for over 25 years. Today, the center supports entrepreneurs and communities as they build a new 21st century food system, healthier for the people, the planet, the environment, and the economy. The center serves the growing community of civic, business, and philanthropic organizations involved in building a new good food system in the United States. In particular, we're focused on advancing regional, collaborative efforts around the country to move good food, healthy, green, fair, affordable food beyond the direct marketing realm into larger-scale wholesale channels. The National Good Food Network, or NGFN, is an initiative of the Wallace Center. It is structured as a network of networks ensuring efficient flow of information and innovation from boots-on-the-ground projects to the national level and back down to the grassroots level across the nation. The Wallace Center coordinates and supports the network. Our goals are to work with the growers to ensure that there is an abundant supply of good food to meet the high consumer demand for the product, to collect and disseminate the best models, stories, methods, and outcomes, and to ensure that policymakers are informed about the wonderful successes our network and partners have had so that we continue to increase support for regional healthy food. You can learn more about the great work of the National Good Food Network on our website, ngfn.org. The National Good Food Network, through its Food Hub collaboration, has been supporting food hubs for years, giving the best possible advice on business, networking, operations, and so on. Today, we take a close look at the farmers that make the food hub's work possible. We will hear what it really means to work with a food hub to sell food. I have asked our panelists to speak directly to you, the farmers who are considering selling into a hub, or perhaps even thinking about starting a hub. What's great? How has the hub relationship changed their business, and what's not so great? We have crammed 5 different stories into the webinar. Why so many? There are a wide variety of food hub models out there. There are a wide variety of farms that might be considering sales into a hub. We wanted to find a wide variety of stories so that you might be able to best relate for your personal situation. So let's look at the hub diversity first. I'll dig in a little more as we go through the webinar, but looking at this chart, you can see that our hubs span the country from coast to coast and in the middle. The hubs are of various sizes, a span of almost an order of magnitude in the number of buyers, for instance. Our farmers are selling into nonprofit and for-profit hubs, and some hubs take ownership of the product, others don't, and there's a wide variety of markets that the hubs serve. One of our hubs is a grower cooperative, and we've asked them to present today 2. I often hear about farmers considering using extra barn space to start a food hub with their fellow growers. Those of you who have toyed with that idea will be especially interested in Jim's presentation. And, of course, our farms span the country too. That is the nature of a local food supply. We have produce growers, a meat rancher, and Chuck does some of each. Acreages run from only 2 acres to 400, and each of these growers has additional markets they sell into besides the hub, an excellent risk management strategy. We will have a question and answer section again after all of the presentations, but let me ask you to please type your questions in as they occur to you so that we can best use that question period. So hang on to your hats. We are going to cover a lot of ground today. Let's start in Michigan. Located in the northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan, Cherry Capital Foods, a for-profit hub, serves many markets, from white tablecloth restaurants to K-12 schools, retail, and institutions. Cherry Capital Foods works only with Michigan producers to enhance the local economy and environment. Cherry Capital carries a very wide variety of products, including fresh produce, meats, dairy, eggs, and value items. For instance, chocolate-covered cherries. Yum! Cherry Capital Foods does distribution, marketing, and sales. They do take ownership of all product, buying from farmers and producers, and taking responsibility to sell the product. Their margin does vary by product. They have a large number and variety of farms and food producers who supply them, and a large number of buyers. Operating 14 refrigerated trucks, Cherry Capital Food moves a lot of food. And so now an introduction to Fred, and then I promise I will stop talking. For a while at least. Fred Monroe is the owner of Monroe Family Organics, an 8-acre farm located in rural central Michigan. Fred grows over 100 varieties of fruits, vegetables, and herbs for local markets, including co-ops, stores, CSA, local distributors, and restaurants. The farm is certified organic and is going into its 5th season. Fred started growing vegetables in a 1/4-acre garden for the local farmers market when he was 16, and then went to Michigan State University for his bachelor's in horticulture and agribusiness. He also interned at Angelic Organics, a large CSA farm in north of Chicago, and the MSU Student Organic Farm. After school, Fred worked for Chef's Garden in Ohio as a manager, raising mostly leafy greens for high-end restaurants across the United States. Fred, tell us about your farm and your relationship with Cherry Capital Foods.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. Our relationship with Cherry Capital Foods has been incredibly positive, and I'm glad to talk about it here today. We started working with Cherry. Let me back up a little bit. We started our farm in 2011, and we started working with Cherry Capital Foods at that time. We started working with them in kind of a small way, but then later on, they become a much bigger part of our farm. But as far as our farm goes, like Jeff said, we're located in central Michigan. My wife and I run the farm. I mostly run the production side, and my wife, Michelle, kind of does a lot of the office type stuff. We're certified organic, and I would say our specialty is definitely leafy greens. That's what we definitely sell the most of. But we also raise everything from blueberries to tomatoes to carrots and things like that. And we do have a pretty diverse market, but it all is to local customers. And we actually have had 2 relationships with different food hubs, but Cherry Capital is definitely the one that's most significant. We did work with one out of Bay City, Michigan for just last season, and I believe that one was being dissolved, but it was also still a very positive experience. It was just kind of too small to keep going in a significant way. But our relationship with Cherry Capital has been very, very good, and they're our largest single buyer, and they have been for the last 4 seasons. And even though they are our largest buyer, they still are about 10% or less of our total sales per year on most years. One of the things that we've really enjoyed is they have very good communication, and they can move larger amounts of certain things. I think all of us, on our farms have times when we have a bumper crop of something, and they're one of the best places to go with a larger amount of different items. And like I said, we started in 2011, that relationship, but then in 2012 was really when it took off. We had an abnormally warm year, so we started abnormally early, and Cherry Capital was really looking for things to sell. And so we started just sending lists of things that we had to them, and they would buy the vast majority of each list. And so for all of a sudden, they went from being someone who was a pretty insignificant buyer the year before to being just overwhelmed by the size of their orders. And so it went, the relationship really took off in 2012. Some of the positives that we've kind of experience both with the Bay City Food Hub and certainly with Cherry Capital is they take care of the logistics, marketing, and sales. Um, it's not that I don't have to sell my products to them, like I have to make a case for our own, our own products, why they should, care to sell them. But, I don't have to go out and find the number. I think the slide says 650 buyers. I don't have to talk to even a small percentage of those. I just have to talk to one person, so that does make it easier on me. And basically what I do is I send them an Excel file at a certain day every week, and they look at it and they decide what they want to take off of it. It has the kind of information like a description of each item, like let's say like 6 count bunches of kale, and we'll say how many cases I have available. So I send them that, then they pretty promptly send back an order the day after, and a time when it's going to be picked up and all of that. So that's kind of how it works for us. They definitely have a much broader geographical reach than what we could efficiently handle. We have our own route where we deal with stores and restaurants directly, but we could never, as for such a small farm, spread ourselves out to the geographical area they do. So that's really, really nice. And I think having our products around the state also kind of puts it in more people's minds, and so more people recognize our name because Cherry Capital is able to get our products to many different places. They also pick up at our farm, which has been great. Their delivery truck comes and we don't have to drive it anywhere, which is great. They also provide other resources. Right now they're assisting us with GAP certification, which has been great because it's something we wanted and just felt like we couldn't do on our own, and they are assisting in ways that mostly consulting, but also it's through like a group GAP program, and so it's going to be less costly for us as well. So that's been really great. I think, we always want to sell, whatever we have as much as we want, but it doesn't always work out that way, obviously. There's only so much of certain things they can sell. If I was to try to, if I just planted the farm to kohlrabi and tried to move, 10,000 pounds of kohlrabi, obviously that's not going to happen. And so, it's like anything else, like any other market. You have to grow what they'll need, and you have to realize that sometimes their sales, won't meet up with what you have available, and that certainly happens, quite a bit. The other thing that they have to do is they have to balance the needs of our farm against the needs of other customers and farms. They do buy some stuff without knowing there's a sale ahead of time, but at the same time they can't go crazy either. And so there are other needs or other farms that actually compete with us through Cherry Capital. So we may have spring mix, let's say, for like $13 a case, and there might be another farm who says, well, I can offer the spring mix for $12 a case. And so sometimes, we see our sales go down at different times of the year and different things because of the fact that there are more farms involved. And they do have labeling requirements, which isn't too bad, but it does add a little bit more work. We also do have to box all our cases of products in certain ways. And actually, that's a great resource Cherry Capital provides, is they actually provide the boxes. But we do, we do have to make everything in boxes, do things a certain way. So there are some requirements there. And I guess, kind of for us, the reason it's been successful is that they're a consistent weekly buyer. They're a very regular buyer. Orders are financially significant. They are our largest customer, and so they make a real impact on our farm. Helps us achieve some efficiencies of scale that would not be there otherwise, to our small restaurants, our CSA, etc. They take large amounts of things like our carrots, and And so we can plant pretty aggressively and buy equipment that can help us achieve some efficiencies. And they're just a good resource of information. They're just outstanding as far as if we're struggling with something, or if they can kind of look and see what kind of things might be needed in the future. And so it's just kind of they're just a great resource, like I said, with GAP certification, certainly. And I don't want to speak too much for Cherry Capital, but the feedback we get from them is that we have outstanding quality. That's the reason they continue to go with us. We're reliable. We come through with what we say. We're local and certified organic, which most people are just local. And we have a pretty extensive variety of products, and we're also extremely close to their normal trucking route. So I guess that's kind of an overview of our relationship with Food Hubs. So I guess I'll turn it over to the next presenter.
Thanks, Fred. That was great. All right, so from Michigan, we're going to fly about halfway across the country to the east to Rhode Island. Farm Fresh Rhode Island is a not-for-profit dedicated to growing a local food system that values the environment, health, and quality of life of Rhode Island farmers and eaters. To that end, they run an impressive variety of food programs, from farmers markets to a food prep training program for at-risk youth to finding ways to fight hunger in the state. Their food hub, called Marketmobile, emerged to serve the restaurant and institutional buying needs for those looking for local food. In the Marketmobile program, farmers are responsible for posting their availability for the week on the website. That's not availability to the hub, that's availability to the buyers. Farmers then pack and deliver the product to the Farm Fresh warehouse. Farm Fresh handles payment and distribution. Farm Fresh does not take ownership of the food destined for wholesale, nor do they do much in the way of active selling. Farm Fresh does have a consumer box program that they run, which is thought of as a customer of Marketmobile, for which Farm Fresh does do sales and marketing, however. In summary, Farm Fresh Rhode Island takes an 18% commission for services of creating a convenient market for wholesale buyers to buy, maintaining a convenient aggregation facility, and for distributing farmers' goods. So let me introduce Chuck. Chuck Curry is a New England-based farmer focused on creating equal access to ecologically produced food. After completing a degree in plant, soil, and insect science, he spent 3 years working on a mixed vegetable farm and six years starting and running his own farms in Vermont and then Rhode Island. He currently runs Freedom Food Farm in Raynham, Massachusetts, a 90-acre, 4-season diversified produce and pasture-raised livestock farm. Chuck?
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me get up. So I run Freedom Food Farm, which is in Raynham, Massachusetts. Here's a picture of some of our fields and some rye crop in the front. And so a brief overview of Freedom Food Farm. This is our 4th year in business, our 2nd year at this new location in Massachusetts. We had been in Rhode Island for the first 2 years of this business. And our current land situation is a lease-to-buy arrangement. So we are under a little bit of a pressure to quickly grow and get to the point where we have the economics where we can exercise the purchase option on the farm and hopefully buy it. We have a 90-acre land base here. We grow about 15 acres of vegetables each year, and we swap that with 15 acres of pastured livestock from year to year. We also hay about 5 acres for the livestock, and the balance is in buildings, roads, forests, streams, and we do leave a field open each year untouched for wildlife. We have 6 full-time farmers working 40 to 60 hours a week year-round, and one of those farmers, one of their main parts of their job is wholesale manager, and they're in charge of dealing with Marketmobile, packing the orders, delivering, listing, things like that. We also have 2 to 4 seasonal employees from April to September. Here's some pictures of the farm, our farmers market, our heritage pig, a view of lettuce from the greenhouse, and last year's farm crew. So our markets primarily have been wholesale. Roughly half of our business the last 3 years has been to wholesale outlets, and the majority of that wholesale is to Marketmobile. So the sales figures for the last few years, it's been about a third of our produce has been going to Marketmobile in 2012 and 2013, and that number was down a little bit in 2014. We're trying to work towards mostly retail situation. We'd like to have CSA be our primary outlet for our sales. Also the farmers markets, we've been doing a lot of winter farmers markets, and we're just trying to get better dollar for our produce. We have been working on a workplace CSA where we do box shares to different workplaces and working on a line of value-added products, which we're also hoping to market through Marketmobile. There's definitely room for that in the Marketmobile program. So here's a page showing the interface that we use with Marketmobile. So up in the top left is the buyer's listing. So when they log on to the Farm Fresh Marketmobile website, they have a list of farms and they scroll through. They're alphabetical, and when they reach our farm, this is what comes up. So there's a little line at the top where you can enter in what we have that week, or a note about what's looking really good, or just something about the farm. There's a space in there to put some pictures of the farm so people know who you're dealing with, what your produce might look like, and a map showing where your location so customers can see how near or far you are from them. You're able to list our produce on the first column by the different crops. You can also put pictures up of each produce, and we try to put up pictures of what the actual product looks like when they receive it. And we're able to choose the size and the price of our crops and food. So some things we have two different sizes, like a 20-pound or a 40-pound and a 5-pound, to try to accommodate those different size buyers. And we also price accordingly. So the smaller items, it's a little bit more per pound to account for the smaller quantity and the packaging required in packaging a smaller product. There's also room to write descriptions of the various products and how many you have that week. It's also great that we're able to set our own prices, so things that are a little harder to grow or in short supply, we can put a higher price on it, and things that we really want to move, we can put lower prices on it and have Marketmobile be an outlet for excess produce or bumper crops. On the bottom right is the interface that we use when we are listing what we have for sale. So some of the advantages to working with the Food Hub are, one of the primary ones is that Farm Fresh Rhode Island deals with all the logistics. So they're maintaining that website listing, which I think is a great interface. It's really easy to use. And they also handle the delivery, and they have refrigerated box trucks that are going all over Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And they also have a refrigerated warehouse, so once we drop off the product at their place, it's refrigerated until it gets delivered to the customer, and that saves us having to maintain a refrigerated box truck and have someone on the road twice a week delivering to all these different customers. So we're able to get our product out to 30 or 40 restaurants and institutions every week, and we only have to deliver to one location twice per week. The other big advantage is the accounts payable. So Farm Fresh deals with all the customers as far as collecting payment, and we receive a check every 2 weeks for what we dropped off, regardless of what the customer's account status is with Farm Fresh Rhode Island. So again, it also gives us an outlet for things that are hard to move in our retail situations, like pork fatback is a big one that we always have excess of. So we also, their consumer box program is called Veggie Box Program, and we've sold a lot through them, and that's great because we're able to pre-plan ahead of time. Say they want 800 bunches of carrots in July, we know that they're going to buy it, and so we plant it in May and we harvest it in July, and we get paid at the end of July, and we know that that income's going to be there and that that buyer will be there. And so that's really great for us, and because it really helped us to expand quickly in an effort to gear up to the size we'd like to be in the limited amount of time. So it also gets our produce out to many different places that otherwise we wouldn't be able to reach on our own. So some of the disadvantages we've had are there's somewhat of a disconnect between the farm and the customer. So since we're not there in person dropping off produce, then we don't really get the feedback like, oh, last time the broccoli had some worms in it and that's why we're not buying it, or last time the broccoli was great but we took it off our menu and that's why we're not buying it. So it's a little hard to know why the markets are trending the way they are. It's also a little difficult to kind of establish that rapport where we know that certain customer is going to be buying these items from us and we can grow them, and if they're not, we can check in and ask them if they're planning on buying this from us or not next year. And for the non-veggie box restaurants and institutions, we also have some trouble planning because one year something will sell really great. Like we had this one variety of cabbage, and it was selling like hotcakes on Marketmobile, and so the next year we planted double, but so did every other farmer on Marketmobile, and suddenly there was this flood in the marketplace, and we weren't able to sell as much. And the other thing that just gives a little bit more details that need to be worked out are the delivery times. So there's a certain time on Monday and a certain time on Wednesday that the delivery has to be there by. So we just have to make sure that everything's harvested, washed, packed, and on the truck at a certain time. It does create a little bit of a pressure on some days. And also there are certain labeling requirements. So and packaging as well. So we just had to work with them a little bit and figure out labels that work and different packages that work. So just some logistics to think about. So there's the latest order of VeggieBox or Marketmobile to go out to Farm Fresh Rhode Island. And thank you for listening, and good luck if you choose to use a food hub in the future.
Thanks so much, Chuck. All right, so now from the East Coast over to the West. Capay Valley Farm Shop, located in a rural area near Sacramento, California, is a strongly mission-based for-profit company that works with their more than 40 organic or sustainable small and mid-scale growers. Capay Valley has 3 primary sales channels: a multi-farm consumer box program, a wholesale business to institutions, restaurants, and the like, and a partnership with online grocer Good Eggs, managing a section that features many of their farmers and ranchers. Capay Valley offers multiple services, including pickup from their farmers, aggregation, marketing, packing, and distribution. Rachel Casa is 1/3 with her husband Anthony and daughter Olivia of Casa Rosa Farms, a small-scale grass-fed and pastured meat producer located in Yolo County, California. They also farm orchard crops, primarily olives for oil, but a little specialty fruit as well, and hay. Her family has been farming in California's Central Valley since emigrating from the Azores in the 1960s. Casa Rosa's farms crops are certified organic, but they have chosen not to get organic certification for their meat products, instead pursuing relationships with small butchers and smokehouses to sell in small batches of incredibly tasty grass-fed meat products. And you may have noticed that with the exception of Tracy, who will present last, we have been working in increasing farm size, so 890 and now 400 acres. Okay, Rachel. Tell us about Casa Rosa Farms in Capay Valley.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are, I guess. So we are primarily increasing our grass-fed meats. So even though we still consider ourselves farmers, not ranchers, we don't have horses or anything like that, we are moving more and more towards our beef operation, partly because of our work with Capay Valley Farm Shop. We also do certified organic olive oil, and the Food Hub does help us move that as well. But I primarily want to talk about the pastured meats because because that's kind of our growth area. So basically we're in Northern California, which has a lot of customers that are really passionate, I guess is a nice way to say it, about meat and dairy and eggs and how the animals are raised and everything. So it's kind of an opportunity for farms to access. But the problem, of course, is how do you get to that next level? Most of us are kind of stalled where we're at farmers markets, we're selling direct, but you can't really get to that next level. You can't really grow your operation to the size where it's actually profitable. So basically, we've just in the last 2 years, we've doubled our cow-calf herd. We're now up to almost 65 animals. We are working with family to grow a majority of our hay instead of purchasing hay, and we're focusing on added value items. And most of this is going out through the hub. A little bit of the market, but mostly through the hub. So basically we've decided to do all our processing USDA. A lot of pastured meat producers sell shares. I don't know if this is, I need to go into this, but a lot of people do half and whole animal shares. And people basically sign up for that up front and pay a certain amount of money, and then they pick up their cuts from a custom butcher, which is not inspected. In California, we only have USDA. There's no state equivalencies. So if you want to sell direct to customers or wholesale or really anything other than a carcass sale, you have to be USDA inspected, both slaughter and processing. So in a state where there's a lot of agriculture, most of our processing facilities are very large, and there are few that are open to small producers. So we've kind of made the decision that everything that we do will be USDA, even if we have to travel to access the smaller facilities that will still work with small producers. But that's also meant that we've had to take in large lots of animals and invest in storage and kind of like move away from the whole animal model and towards more of the, okay, we're going to take in 15 lambs, every month, or we're going to take in, 4 steers every 3 months. So it's definitely made us kind of step up our game and figure out, okay, now we have to move all this product, and we have to do it quickly because we've got more coming down the pipe. So that's where our food hub has really been helpful to us. The other thing that I wanted to say is we have a lot of what you would call niche butcher shops in the Bay Area, which is where primarily our market is. And one thing that really harms people that are trying to sell direct is you can't access all the products that they want. The urban people are kind of like expecting to get like charcuterie and sliced meats and cured meats and so forth. So we have to find a way to do that at prices that we can compete with them too, which is also a challenge. So doing that means we have to get to the customers that can actually afford it. So that's also where food hub has come in very handy. Let's see. One other thing is that to sell to Cape Valley Farm Shop, we need our stuff to be USDA inspected. Unlike other food hubs that went ahead of me, we actually don't sell very much to them directly. Cape Valley Farm Shop does have a meat share, but it's still very small. I mean, I think they have maybe like 15 to 20 members for the meat share. They're primarily produce based on the box shares. And even though we do sell a la carte on the website, like as if so somebody could go in and add it on, we don't actually do too many sales. What they do mostly for us is give us access to the marketplace. We are not large enough for self-distribution. We don't even have a full-time employee. It's just my husband and I. And we don't want to do the conventional model, which is you do your cow-calf, you raise your animals, and then you send them off to the feedlot. We finish our animals the way we want to. We produce a quality product, and we want the customers to get the product the way we want it without somebody else kind of like getting in there and, what we consider messing it up. So when we do something, we know exactly how we want it to be marbled. We know how long we want to age it. we control the process from start to finish, and we want the customer to get it, to receive that meat as we intended it to be eaten. Anyone who raises animals, knows how frustrating it is to raise this amazing animal and then, sell it to somebody and then they cut it up and don't really maximize, how it was intended, for example. It happens sometimes with restaurants. You're just like, what happened? Anyway, so we have everything packed and wrapped into consumer packaging so that they get it the way we intended it to. So mostly what Farm Chef does for us is they are a distributor. We contract with other hub type companies. Sometimes they're called online grocers. We have 3 ones that we work with right now, but there are new people like this starting all over in California, where basically customers go online and they purchase products through some kind of an online portal system, and those products actually get delivered directly to their door. So what Farm Shop does is they're kind of like our aggregator. They go there, they take all the products from the valley, and they go there so that we don't have to go there. So basically, Farm Shop is all the farms on one truck. So the fuller that we can get the truck, the cheaper it is for all the farms that are putting product on this truck. It makes us more interesting to larger customers because they can kind of go through a list and pick all different kinds of products. They can access products from some of the bigger names in the industry. We have 3 of those farms in our area that are very well known and have really good reputations. So they can access those products, but then they can also add on products from other niche producers that maybe just have duck eggs or various other things like that. So it makes us more appealing to some of the institutions and the larger online retailers that they can kind of just have it all in like one big grab bag. I would say the biggest benefit to us is that we don't have to actually drive the product to these various other hubs. Farm Shop charges us a very fair 10% of the dollar value that's going there. So basically they're just working as a delivery service for the majority of our sales. So unlike some of the other food hubs where they take ownership of everything and then they redistribute it, they're actually just delivering for us to these other food hubs or online grocers. And then they do buy a little bit of our product for their own market box type, like a veggie share, they call them farm shares. But that's, like I said, that's a very, very small piece of our actual sales to the food hub. So then I was going to talk about changes that we've had to make or that we are contemplating making working with our food hub. We've had to really step up our paperwork and our invoicing. I have to actually track and make sure that people have paid me because the majority of the payments are coming through various e-payment providers. Since the companies that we're working with are very online, very tech-oriented, it's all direct deposit. So I have to actually make sure that those match up with my invoices. I also have to make sure that I pay Farm Shop's percentage, that I do that correctly. So there are a lot of, and then there's also chain of command issues because, it is going on their truck and then they're not actually buying it, it's still mine. So I have to kind of do an accurate chain of ownership for it and a bill of lading and everything like that. So that's been something that's a challenge that you might face if you start working with a food hub. The other one is storage. We've really had to step up our game as far as storage goes. I had to invest in a new walk-in. You have to be able to put together pallet quantities of a product. So like for us being grass-fed producers, it's like we have to actually be able to pull together 200 pounds of ground beef, 30 T-bones, for an order. It's like we had to move. We can't just do things by the animal anymore. It has to be, by the cut. And we also have to have very good inventory systems and know what we have and when it's going to be available. The other thing is because of these online grocers, they're, like I said, they're very tech-heavy. I have to be in constant communication with them all the time. Like I had to get a smartphone. I had to. We have to have good internet. These people want, instant communication. There are changes that go out all the time, and they want to be able to deal with that, like literally at like midnight sometimes if they want to. So that's definitely something to think about if you want to deal with some of these online grocers or food hubs or whatever they are. And then of course planning. We've had to plan ahead a lot more, but at the same time sometimes the planning doesn't really help because these online grocers are very trendy. Something will be popular or it'll be featured by chefs, and then they want like tons and tons and tons of it, and then in like 3 months they'll never want to see another, thing. Like for example, right now the beef bone broth, very popular. So I mean, it's been a very, very good business for beef bones, for soup bones. But as summer approaches, I'm sure that it's going to taper off, and we will have all these bones that we can't do anything with again. So anyway, it's just like that. You kind of have to anticipate the seasons and the trends and also plan out several years in advance, but still have some flexibility where that's concerned. Okay. So Good Eggs is a service that provides online door-to-door delivery. Basically, people order, they fill their cart, and it is delivered to their door. Instead of the inventories being managed by Good Eggs as if they were like a distributor, the farmer actually has to manage all our own inventories, and we have to get the products to the hub the same day that they're going to be delivered to the consumer. The consumer can actually order up until midnight the day before. So it's an incredibly quick turnaround time, which makes it pretty inaccessible for most farmers that are actually like farming full time. We can't just like stay up till midnight and run stuff in the next morning to the city that's like 2 hours away. So basically this only works because of our relationship with Cape Valley Farm Shop. They currently go to the warehouse in San Francisco 4 days a week, and we put product on the truck 2 days a week. So Good Eggs is growing, and there are now in the Bay Area at least 3 different versions of this. Some of them cater more to some segments of the population than others, but this delivery service thing is just booming. I mean, people are really taking advantage of this, and having this door-to-door delivery thing, like I don't think it's going to go away. So anyway, so this is a big piece of our new business. Just within the last year we've been doing this, and what it does for us is it lets us move more artisan products at a higher price. It lets us move certain things at higher volume and at a higher price. The customers are definitely in a different income bracket. They are willing to pay for what they want. They're not necessarily looking for deals. They just want what they want. And then I have some numbers there of what it would cost for us basically if we were to try to access this marketplace without the food hub. I mean, we'd spend 7 or 8 hours a week driving in $600 worth of product. So instead we pay 10% and we get our product delivered to them. So, okay, finally, my summary page. The food hub has helped us grow our business into a size where it can actually be profitable. It's let us specialize into added value. It's also helped us with improve our reputation, even though we've been farming and we've been certified organic since 2009. I don't think we had a lot of name recognition until recently, and it provides safe, economical delivery. I know that when I put product on that truck, it's going to get there in the same condition that it was when I put it on the truck, which is, incredibly important when, it's your reputation and it's your liability and everything. I don't really have a downside, actually. Our relationship with Farm Shop is really good, and they do a few other things like workshops and rentals. We can actually rent a reefer if we need one for a day. And they're overall just really good people and really awesome to work with. So we get to spend more time farming, and they get to go be the ones that sit in traffic instead of us. So we definitely appreciate that. All right.
All
I
right.
think I'm done.
Thank you, Rachel. Great. Well, there's a satisfied customer. Okay, so let's move on to our last two panelists. They both work with or for the Western Montana Growers Cooperative. I'm going to let Jim talk about markets, products, services, and margins, basically the intro that I've given for all the other hubs. But I did want to just make this point very clear. All of the other hubs that our farmer presenters sell into are outside organizations or businesses. As a farmer-focused webinar, we wanted to make sure that we talked about what can happen when a group of growers organize and decide to sell collectively. So we're splitting the Western Montana Growers Co-op presentation into two parts. Jim is going to tell you about the co-op, how it was formed, some of the successes and challenges they've had, and then Tracy will talk about her experiences selling through the co-op. And I want to give a special note that Jim is last minute filling in for the general manager, Dave Prather. So thank you, Jim. Jim started his food career in 1978 in San Francisco at a consumer co-op in the outer Sunset District. He enjoyed his work buying produce from the farmers markets, veritable vegetable, and the commercial produce terminal in San Francisco. Since then, he's worked his way up and down the food chain, including work with United Farm Workers, farming himself, and work in retail grocery sales. He's worked with the Western Montana Growers Co-op since June of 2010, doing marketing and distribution and whatever else is necessary. He has a fondness for mathematics and is spending more and more time doing financial management for the co-op now. Jim.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's see here. That's us. Local is delicious. Western Montana Growers Co-op is located, we're in Missoula now in Western Montana. We have farms that range from 60 miles north of here to 60 miles south to 60 miles west of here. Started in 2003 with about 5 farms, and they were in the rural areas, and they were having trouble getting their produce into Missoula, for one. Since that time, we've grown to serve over 50 farms and include 40 member owners at this time. Again, that geographic area. It's a fairly full plate of products. It's dominated by produce. And then we also have a large organic dairy and 2 egg producers, 1 certified organic and 1 free range. We have some beef, some meat, but it's not a huge part of our business right now. They range from really small farms to medium-sized farms. To the dairy has quite a bit of land involved in theirs. Our customers, so we got, okay. Our customers are primarily wholesale. 92% of our customers are wholesale, primarily natural food stores, but also grocery stores, restaurants, and then we are growing our institutional market. University of Montana and some hospitals are starting to be involved with us. We have a multi-farm CSA with cherries and milk and cheese and all kinds of products, as well as produce items. It's 8% of our business. It's really good for early cash flow for us, and I think it's also good for name recognition among the general public to get the idea of the Growers Co-op out to the individual consumers and not just to the wholesale customers. We do sell, we operate our own trucks that run north and south along Western Montana as far as the Canadian border virtually, and then we partnership with a couple of distributors to take our products to the other major towns in Montana, Helena, Butte, Billings, and Bozeman. We do get our products as far away as Billings, which is 350 miles to the east of here. Our business has basically tripled in size over the last 5 years, and we just recently moved into a new warehouse in Missoula. It's a big leap for us. The bottom picture there it shows our new walk-in cooler, which is just a dream come true. We will be able to pack orders inside the cooler. The top picture shows a couple of loading docks so that we can get our truck from the north and our truck from the south to unload at the same time, get things into the walk-in coolers. sort the products out and send it out to where it needs to go, either on our own trucks or with Charlie's Produce. We have 5 year-round employees and up to 6 seasonal employees. So we just got into our new location in early January this year, so it's a new experience for us. So now I'd like to go through the phases of growth of the co-op, and I really have to give credit to the people who started it, because I think it's so hard to start a co-op. It was basically started by some small growers who needed to get their products into Missoula. We did get good funding from Lake County Community Development Corporation and the Montana Department of Agriculture. They have a growth through agriculture program, so I definitely recommend looking into community development corporations and your local organizations. We also were able to use a donated office and warehouse space on farm in Arlee, which is about 20 miles north of here, and we were there for 11 years probably, so that's quite useful. So the first delivery truck was donated to Western Montana Growers Co-op, and we still have it. We still use it. It's one of our 3 trucks that we have now. I see what's next here. Okay, yeah, one of the biggest challenges that we had was we had these small farmers getting their things into Missoula, and then we had larger farmers around on the sidelines doing their own business in Missoula, and they really didn't need the co-op to benefit. But once the co-op started being able to get products out of Missoula and get them to Helena and Billings and Bozeman through partnerships with various distributors, at that point there was a desirability of the larger growers to dive in, and so that's when we added a large produce producer and the dairy and the eggs. And that was pretty critical to our meetings. There's some other things issued on that same challenge slide there. We do extensive amount of market projections and crop planning to deal with some of the issues that other people have brought up about having too much of this and not enough of that. So we try and regulate that, at least in terms of what we have available. There's still the issues with what the market actually ends up deciding after that, but we do spend a lot of time on product planning. We've also had years to develop policies on production hierarchy, who gets to produce what, and we still have issues with large contracts with places like universities and things like that. We don't really do many memorandums of understanding as far as pre-selling crops. It's all pretty much sold as we have it. I think more challenging, on our second slide of more challenges, there's just a list of them. What I saw when I joined the co-op about 5 years ago was that everybody was still involved, but they were keeping all of the resources, financial, in their own businesses, and the co-op basically had the one truck and a borrowed warehouse, and nobody, were not willing to invest in the co-op itself. And so getting the members to invest on a lot of different levels in the co-op took a lot of convincing. Primarily, the main thing we tried to do is to prove that we were a viable business and provide services that they needed, which were basically getting the products to markets they couldn't, spending time doing the marketing for them, and as time has gone by, we've tried to do more picking up the product on the farm, or we have a series of collection points along the highway, but different farms where people can leave their products so they don't have to come all the way. But basically, we've been trying to provide more services to people so that they will see the value of the business. And we've been successful in growing the business a lot on farm, to the point to where we needed to move, and this involved a large investment in new infrastructure. And so now there's a whole series of issues related to paying for that infrastructure and what is the equity structure of who owns what, and that's a process we're working on right now. Again, as far as suggestions go, like I said, take advantage of every place has every state has cooperative development centers. Most places have some sort of community development corporations. Our partnerships with other trucking companies are really important as far as keeping our costs in line. And we're working a lot on capital budgeting. And I definitely have to thank the Wallace Center for a lot of things we've been able to do with their assistance. And local is delicious.
Well, thanks for the shout out, Tim. You guys are fantastic too, and thank you for that presentation. Lots of challenges, but they are making it work. They're moving lots and lots of food, and people are staying on their farms because of it. So now let me introduce Tracy. Tracy Potterfins is half of County Rail Farm, located east of Dixon, Montana. She and her wife provide fresh, high-quality, certified organic Montana homegrown produce to their community via farmers market and a variety of stores and restaurants through the Western Montana Growers Co-op. This is their 5th season growing on approximately 2 acres, including perennial fruits and vegetables. County Rail is best known for asparagus, arugula, salad mix, cherry tomatoes, and English cucumbers. Good high value, interesting to wholesale products. Tracy. You may still be muted.
There we go.
There it is.
Sorry about that. Like Jeff said, my partner and I run County Rail Farm in Dixon, Montana. We lease a 23-acre property at this point. 4 acres of that property are farmable, and this is our 5th season here in Montana, growing on approximately 2 acres. That includes cover crop, perennial fruits, and that perennial asparagus that Jeff mentioned. We only plant and seed about 1 acre each year, so our scale is really small, and our season runs from April to October, and we hire 1 full-time intern worker farmhand from May to October. We sell certified organic produce at 2 farmers markets in Missoula and through the Growers Co-op, which you already know a little bit about. Our first season, we actually didn't intend to grow for the co-op at all because our scale is so small. We didn't think wholesale would be profitable for us. But that first year, we were encouraged to grow a couple of specialized crops and wound up bringing in a few $1,000s, which was about 1/6 of that year's gross sales. Following season,
Tracy, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just lean a little closer to the mic or speak a little louder?
Oh, sure.
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Oh, good. So in the following seasons, we've increased our gross income by about 5-fold, and our co-op sales are now about half of our business. We have commitments to grow salad mix and arugula, English cucumbers, and cherry tomatoes for the co-op, along with a number of other crops that we don't have substantial commitments for or no commitments at all for. Similar to one of the other farms that presented, the co-op has a web-based system. So we plug in what's available the day before our sale day into an online form. And then we check on sale day to see what was sold by a certain time. We only move over into the cooler for them to pick up what sells. And in some cases, we can change how much we harvest depending on what does or doesn't sell. It makes it really easy for us to manage. Growing for the co-op has made our very small scale and rural farm pretty profitable. by allowing us to grow more than we could have moved through the markets alone, and by specializing, which allowed us to take advantage of some economies of scale even on our small system, particularly in salad greens and arugula. It allowed us to sell both in bulk bags and some retail bags for greens. And even though we grow less than what many customers, like grocery stores and restaurants, need in bulk, we are able to pool our goods with other farms, and we can still sell to venues that need a consistent supply through the co-op. Our farm is about 45 minutes from a number of different markets, but they're all pretty small. And currently, the 2 markets we go to provide little room for growth in our sales. It takes us considerable time and effort, and by selling through the co-op, even though we're selling technically direct to the customer, we don't have to do any customer relations or delivery. Twice a week, we cool and pack produce in our warehouse and then move it directly to the co-op pickup point, which for us happens to be on our property, and we get a check in the mail. It's by far less work than setting up and taking down a market stand, but we don't make as much per item. The co-op takes a 20 to 25% cut from retail price in order to deliver and to cover costs. And for us, that cut is well worth it. We would be unable to sell all of our produce at the markets and unwilling to deliver to restaurants and groceries and institutions on our own. We don't have the infrastructure or the time to make that work. And particularly in western Montana, customers are pretty widely spread, and delivery alone is close to impossible for the amount of produce that each of our customers buys. The co-op allows us to sell 99% of the produce that we grow. There's very little waste in a variety of venues that cater to different crops at different times, which makes our business both sustainable and profitable. Selling through the co-op does have limits for us. We don't have contact with customers, so we have less ownership and control over our products. So customers can't pick which farms they're buying from generally, and we can't choose which customers to sell to. We also can't fix prices as easily as in other systems. We do have some control over it, so if we want to raise, say, the arugula price one year, we are able to put that online and see how it goes. But if we raise our arugula price, everybody in the co-op's arugula price is raised for certified organic. So there's a little bit less flexibility with pricing. The co-op does a pretty good job of quality control, but there are times when communication is a little less efficient and accounts or produce is compromised because of it. We're paid with a check every 2 weeks or a month, and occasionally we're paid more or less than we're due, which requires some extra record keeping on our end to know exactly what we moved into their pickup spot on what days. Another drawback is commitments. So I mentioned before we're committed to a few specific crops through the co-op. The co-op's crops are doled out based on a hierarchy policy that gives farms with longer membership and or more experience growing them priority for those crops. So it means that new growers have a hard time getting in on highly profitable crops like tomatoes and basil. New farms can grow those profitable crops without having a commitment, but the produce coming from farms with commitment sells first. So, for example, for us, that means we can sell a lot of heirloom tomatoes on years that other farms get frozen out because we're a little bit warmer than other areas around here. But we can't count on those sales for next year, and we can't take over that commitment for the crop until the growers with priority pass it on, which is relatively unlikely for something like heirloom tomatoes, even if the demand for that crop grows. That makes it a little bit more difficult to plan for each year, and occasionally means that there's some produce that doesn't move for us. So it makes it difficult for smaller new farms to enter the co-op easily because we want to be growing highly profitable crops instead of squash or potatoes, and without other venues to sell through. Selling through the co-op for not so profitable goods isn't really worth it. And it does mean some competition between co-op members, although that hasn't been a huge problem in the past for us. The co-op does provide a number of other benefits for us. we're able to access some institutional markets, such as schools and hospitals that can take our seconds, like seconds cucumbers, curly ones or damaged ones, which are pretty inaccessible for profit on a smaller scale. And it means we move, like I said, almost all of our produce every year. We're also becoming GAP certified this year through the co-op by a group GAP, which is something that would not be possible or would be pretty costly on our own. We participated in group ordering through the co-op for packing materials or irrigation materials and other general supplies. And it allows us to work with other farmers in our community and gives us a venue through which to ask questions, get help with crops, borrow equipment, etc. And finally, because the co-op is member-run, we're able to be involved in every step of the co-op's growth. So my wife has been on the board of the co-op for the past few years. And it gives us, as growers, a level of control that's pretty empowering for individuals. I think that is about all I have. Thanks for having me on the panel.
All right. Great. Thank you all. I'm blown away. I'm sure you all are too. We are running a little long, but please stick with us. I'd like to ask our panelists some questions, and please continue to type in your excellent questions. We have a question from Glenda, and maybe we can just do a quick round robin here, and we'll just sort of go by how you are listed, each of the farmers listed on this page here. But is your farm name and information carried through to the sale on box or bag labels, invoicing system? Essentially, does your end customer know exactly which farm your product came from, or which farm their product came from? So, Fred, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we put a label on every box, every case that goes from our farm to Cherry Capital, which has our farm logo, name, and where we're located on it.
Great. Chuck?
For us, yeah, people get to choose which farm they buy from, and then when they receive it, it has a label with our farm name on it. So they're choosing to buy specifically from us.
Right, and that is unusual, not super unusual, but Farm Fresh Rhode Island, you must choose from which grower you are getting your product.
Right, correct. Yeah, it's each farm is listed separately on their website, and so yeah, they're kind of picking and choosing which farms they work with.
Rachel?
Yes, definitely. In fact, there are, even for the products that Farm Shop is marketing themselves, everything is clearly marked, and they get a consumer, like say they buy the PEC, which is like our medium-sized CSA box. They're going to get a sheet in there where it's going to say each, the beets are, Riverdog Farm or whatever. Each farm is listed. For the meat products, it's really simple because it has a label and our name is on the label. So there's no potential for confusion of any kind for any of the products. And every member farm has a page on the Cape Valley Farm Shop website where there's like a bio and information about growing practices. And also same thing for Good Eggs. When the product is listed on Good Eggs, and it's like I actually do it both ways. We have our own portal where our products are just listed on our own farm. But then for example, the olive oil that I sell to Cape Valley Farm Shop, on Good Eggs it'll be listed Costa Rosa Farms via Cape Valley Farm Shop. So even then it will still have our name, but it will just kind of like link us with Cape Valley Farm Shop in the customer's mind.
Great.
That's how they do it.
And Tracy?
Yeah, so the Growers Co-op provides labels for us. We use a stamp that has all of our information on it, but like I said, we don't get to pick and choose who orders from us, or vice versa, but they do know where their product is coming from.
Once they get it. Good.
So Jeff, this is Jim.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Most of our customers are wholesale, so that the name goes through to the wholesale customer, but we do have some issues with getting that information to the actual ultimate buyer. So we're needing to do a lot to carry that through the final step from the back room in the produce department out to the front room, and we'll be working on that.
Great. I'm interested in the role of the hub translating market/buyer information back to you, the producers. Anyone can take this. I'm interested in production planning. Just maybe it's not group production planning. Maybe it's just information. Hey, we're hearing that salad greens are huge this year. Anyone can jump in and take it if you have a good story.
Yeah, I guess for us, I guess we don't get a ton of feedback, but we do ask. I talk with the purchaser at Cherry Capital every winter, and we talk about, do you see things of the, do you see this product being more or less for the coming year? And so that's about the extent of the how much feedback we get.
We do have, this is Chuck, we have a yearly meeting where the vendors and the customers all come in, and Farm Fresh Rhode Island presents some things that are going on with VeggieBox or with Marco Mobile, and there's an opportunity for vendors or customers to make comments on things. And we can communicate through email at any point, but it's definitely underutilized. I think one of the advantages for the farmers is that they don't have to spend the time fielding all these questions from the customers.
Okay.
I think for Gateway Valley Farm Shop, again, I'm not a vegetable producer, so I don't have a lot of information about how they do it on the vegetable and the fruit end, but there's a little bit of planning, but honestly, most of that happens outside of Farm Shop. It would be just informal networking with other grass-fed meat producers, working together to, kind of like meet. I would hear from a supplier that such and such item is going to be really hot and we want a ton of it, and I will know that I don't have that, so I might reach out to someone else that I know has it and encourage them to talk to the food hub, and vice versa. I mean, that's how it happens more than anything else, at least with the pastured meat and eggs. Kind of just filling in each other's gaps. Like, it's really not driven by the food hub at all, and actually in some ways I wish it was. That could be an area where we could definitely use some improvement, just kind of like finding out, them actually asking their vendors, to project ahead a little bit, because currently we don't really have any idea. We have to kind of find that out on our own.
This is Tracy. Jim talked a little bit about how they do some extensive craft research every year to figure out what can sell and what they think they'll be able to move. And those are sent out to all of the growers, and they're sent out with projections for last year, what was actually sold, and then projections for the coming year. And so growers can look at the list and sort of plug in where more is needed, or move crops if less is needed in some places, which is helpful, extremely helpful for the growers, and helps us plan for the next season. And so everything is done through commitments for us. We commit to a certain amount that we're going to sell through the co-op each month, basically.
And that's a written commitment?
It's not a formal commitment. We send it's not a contract, but we send a sheet of what we've committed to by crop, by month, at the beginning of the season. And then if we sort of default on our commitments, one year we may not get a hierarchy to grow those crops again if we do that for more than a couple of years in a row. Generally, my personal comfort zone is committing a little bit less than I think what we're going to be able to grow and what we're going to be able to sell to counteract that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it is written, but it's not a contract.
Sure, that makes sense.
Verbal contract.
Fred, question for you. You mentioned that Cherry Capital picks up from you. How does that payment account get accounted for? Does the hub charge a fee? Do you factor that into your pricing with some sort of discount or lower pricing? How does it go on the books?
Yeah, no, it's pretty nice actually. We don't pay any other fees for them to pick up at our farm, and the pricing is what we choose the pricing to be. So, you know, obviously if we price it too high, then we start pricing ourselves out of what they can actually sell. But you know, we just give them a stated price, and usually it only ends up being, you know, a few percentage points less than what we would sell to a co-op or a restaurant or something else. So it ends up being a little bit less, but not very much at all. Certainly, we're providing a great value by the fact they pick up with a truck there.
Well, that leads to this question, and I'm just going to ask two more questions, I think, even though there are many, many more excellent questions. But do any of you use tools to help analyze the financial feasibility of selling through the hub versus your other markets?
This is Fred. I guess I would say no, not necessarily.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say we don't use anything specifically, but we do use QuickBooks pretty extensively to analyze the profitability of each crop through farmers market or through wholesale. So I have two different sort of listing accounts there, wholesale and farmers market, and I can look at each crop and see what we're making per case, basically.
Is there any way to account for variable cost of tending to each crop? I mean, the amount of time needed?
Not the way that I'm doing it. I don't track those costs at all.
Okay.
I would say it's same as Tracy. I assign different categories in QuickBooks depending on which type of vendor I'm working with. Good Eggs actually does a lot of their own kind of analytics. They send you all kinds of data. A lot of it's pretty useless, but some of it's good, you know, as far as like, you know, what things sold well. So once you have like a full year's worth of information, you can actually look back and track some trends and kind of like do an analysis of like what products, you know, are worth continuing, which products you might not want to continue to sell there, or you can look at pricing. Generally, though, pricing is not really flexible for us because Good Eggs takes 30%, and then we have additional 10% from the food hub. So we don't really have wiggle room there at all as far as pricing goes. Basically, if an item isn't selling, I just stop selling it there and sell something else.
Yeah, something that Rachel and I talked about as we were preparing for this was that different products seem to do better in different markets, and you know, different cuts, or if they're value added or not. And so I think she tends to find which products are profitable in which market. Chuck, do you want to comment on financial analysis?
Yeah, definitely. We do, similar situation to Tracy, where, you know, we know the profitability of each crop, and so we basically, the only things that we now plan on growing strictly for Markmobile, not for the Veggie Box program, but for restaurants and institutions, we'll only grow the things that are very profitable for us and then list them, because otherwise, yeah, it doesn't really make sense for us to grow extra, you know, I don't know, maybe broccoli or something that's not as profitable for us, and just to sell it on Markmobile. So we're only doing like specialty crops really that we make a lot of money per per acreage or per unit. So things like celeriac, salad greens in the early spring, kohlrabi, things where you get a really good yield and you're getting a fair return on it. So we kind of also use as an outlet to boost sales of those more profitable crops.
Jim mentioned about prioritizing farmers, and George has a question asking to speak to how competition between co-op members or hub farmer networks avoid the inevitable internal competition that turn a noble idea into another business as usual model. And Rachel, I was hoping that you could briefly share your story about sharing farmers market space that was enabled through connections through Cape Valley Farm Shop.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's not all sunshine and roses over here in California. There is a lot of competition, and there is definitely, you kind of, at least in our food hub, we have the founding members, the bigger farms with the bigger reputations, and then you kind of have mid-level, and then you have a lot of small people that might sell just like 1 or 2 items through the hub. So definitely, I think the way our farm has handled competition is that, yes, I'm sorry, my daughter's
no problem.
We've just basically kind of looked, we've done our own analysis on what the other farms are doing, and then we just kind of don't do it. That's kind of how we've dealt with it. But I do know that there are issues, especially with some of the kind of the more niche vegetable growers, where there might be like 4 or 5 people all wanting to sell cherry tomatoes, and there's just not enough volume to sell all the cherry tomatoes. So yeah, there are issues with competition. But as far as just like networking goes, we've been able to share farmers market space to a couple other farms that also provide products through the farm shop. It's not like actually like sanctioned by a farm shop or a farm shop program. It's just kind of something that's grown out of our relationships. Just kind of, we sell to them, so we know each other, and then we kind of work out other partnerships that might also work out for us. So we do 2 joint farmers markets, which is pretty nice.
Great. One other person want to talk about co-opetition, competition, and cooperation?
Well, yeah, this is Jim. I mean, I will say that competition is part of the cooperation, and the co-op is a business, and all the people involved are businesses, so it is necessary to kind of manage that competition and it's not going to go away. And so, like, for example, with the heirloom tomatoes that Tracy brought up, and what happened this year is that we talked about it in a meeting. We have a written policy, and the policy wasn't clear in some places, so we talked about it, and the board said, okay, well, this is what we're going to do this year, and this is how we're going to revisit this in the next growing season, in the off-season. And so you just have to try and manage the competition.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jim, I'm going to give you the last word. So there it was, managing the competition, managing farms, managing hubs. Not easy job, but these folks have done a fantastic job doing it, and I can't express my gratitude enough to the panelists today. This is the start of the busy season, and each panelist took several hours to contribute to making this webinar what it was, so thank you so much. From 2 acres to 400 and beyond, food hubs are taking a value chain approach, placing high value on the relationship with their growers and their buyers to build a food system that is better for the environment, the farmers, the eaters, and the community's economy. We presented a wide variety of stories today, but the range of hubs and growers who have found that hubs strengthen their business is ever so much wider. This webinar is being recorded and will be archived on our site at ngfn.org/webinars, along with the over 50 other webinars we've done in the past. Feel free to send others who you think you would have liked to have heard this presentation and take some professional development time yourself and dig through our excellent archives. This webinar should be up within a few business days. We offer the NGFN webinars every third Thursday of each month at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, noon 30 Pacific. Sign-up links are always at ngfn.org/webinars and will be emailed to you if you get on our mailing list. Actually, it's the second Thursday of May where we dig deep into crop insurance, particularly the new products that are available from USDA and other whole farm insurance plans. These options better cater to the smaller, diversified farmer. Learn what's out there and how to choose which, if any, product will work for your operation or the operations of those farmers you support. In June, we dig into access to capital. Farmer, food hub, processor, institutional buyer, access to capital to ensure business viability and growth is often quite difficult. Michael Schumann will present several innovative sources for capital and some that didn't even exist until recently. This one is a must-see. And in August, we'll present a simple, valuable tool designed to step you through making the tough decisions for your business. It's like having a consultant there to help you step through to find the ideal solution for you. There will be an option to automatically sign up for these webinars in the post-webinar survey, so please let us know. Just a quick note that Michigan State University, in concert with the Wallace Center and the National Good Food Network Food Hub collaboration, which includes USDA and Farm Credit, is currently running the 2015 National Food Hub Survey. This is super, super important. If you are a food hub or no food hubs, please participate in this survey. It does take a little while, but it really helps the Wallace Center and others improve the understanding that people have about food hubs and improves their success. Agricultural Marketing Service, who has for years maintained a farmer's market directory, has now added an on-farm market directory, a CSA directory, and a food hub directory. So if you participate in any one of those markets, please go to USDA-localfooddirectories.com and register your on-farm market. Ask your farmer's market manager to do it, your food hub. If you are a food hub, please participate. You can find the National Good Food Network on YouTube, Twitter, or our website, ngfn.org. The Wallace Center is also on Facebook. Come like us. If you search for Wallace Center and Winrock International, you will find us. And again, if you haven't already, sign up for our email updates. There is a link on the ngfn.org homepage, or really the easiest way is just let us know in that post-webinar survey. We will sign you up. Contact us at any time. contact@ngfn.org. Thank you for your time today. Apologies for going over, but I couldn't help it. These were such great stories. And again, let me encourage you once again to fill out that survey that will open in your web browser in just a moment. We do offer these webinars free to you, but we do need to let our funders know about their impact. So let us know how we did today and sign up for future webinars if you're interested and get on our mailing list. Thank you. This concludes the webinar.